happy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
This is one of those times where I've got someone that's been near and dear to my heart for 10 years on this podcast. Perfectly Imperfect. I couldn't think of anyone else that's seen me at my worst, best, and okayish. But Kate, thank you so much for taking the time to come spend with us, and so good to see you.
Time well spent, always with you, my friend. Thanks for having me today. I'm so excited.
So I want the audience to understand. I have a few stories about Kate just to talk about the kind of person she is and what she's done and what she means to her community, her family, her organization. But I met Kate when I was a CMO at BHG Financial. A friend had set up a meeting where Kate came in and talked about David's Refuge, which for anybody that knows me knows that it is the greatest charity on the face of this earth. And Kate is the chief energy officer, executive director. I like the CEO play there better. But Kate came in and talked to me about something that I didn't even realize existed. And David's Refuge exists to provide respite for parents or caregivers of severely disabled or medically disabled children. And for anyone that knows me as well, I have two sons, and they've been through a combined 10 surgeries. So when Kate explained this, I don't think it took 5 minutes for the both of us to be in tears. And from that point on, we were a big sponsor of David's Refuge. Kate invited me, stayed in touch, and we stayed close, invited me to consider joining the board, which I've been on, and it's one of the proudest things in my career that I've done. So I wanted to get that story out because the passion, the authenticity, the love you have for what you do has sat with me. I still get chills. I still get chills talking about that first meeting. So for the audience, this is who we have here today.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. My job is to go into people's offices and make them cry.
Hey, it works.
But it's such a beautiful mission. And I walk around every day, even shocked for myself that this is the job I get to do. And I tell people too, my job is to align with the change makers in our community, the people who see that we already have a beautiful place to live and work and raise our families, but that it could always be even more beautiful. And so going in, I remember being so nervous to meet with you. I was like, oh, this big executive from this huge company that I had heard all about. And to have that heart connection so quickly and have people like you who so eagerly jump into believing in this mission as much as I do, as much as my team, that's the true gift of this work. So thank you for just coming on the bus and riding along with us all this time. It's just been amazing.
And David's Refuge, even back then, I had no idea what it was. Now it seems to be, it's changed to where everyone in Syracuse knows. You can make one call and say, hey, I'm with David's Refuge. Oh yeah. That group, all of the local sports teams, the businesses, everybody wants to help because everybody's impacted by it. It's almost, like the American Cancer Society, where you can sit there and say, well, I know someone who's been impacted here. And the toll that, I've been very fortunate, great family circle. We have resources and the ability to not have to leverage David's Refuge. Although you've told me for years that we should, and if you could make it to Orlando, that would be great. But you've expanded to Rochester, which is another big city about 90 minutes west of Syracuse. Talk to me, because again, Perfectly Imperfect, this hasn't been easy. So talk to me a little bit about how are you different today as the CEO, the chief energy officer of David's Refuge than you were, a decade ago when you first started?
That's a great question. So I think a lot about how Warren and Brenda Full, the founders of David's Refuge, the Kate that they met in that first interview in our board and the Kate that I am today. And I do attribute so much of that to them, to our founders, really literally telling me, Kate, you got to just take a breath. Our mission is all about self-care. Self-care isn't selfish, not burning out. And that's what we do for all of the clients we serve. And they would say to me, Kate, you worked till 10 o'clock last night in an event. It was great. Why are you here in the office at 8 o'clock the next morning? Like, it's okay for you to actually take a step back, process all of the great work you just did. And I just had never heard that before. I had never heard people who actually were leading an organization that was truly people first. And so as I started to drink that Kool-Aid, which is not hard to drink if people keep offering it to you, I started to realize just how much more the organization would thrive if I became a leader who also had those same values. And I always tell people it took me a long time to get off of the hamster wheel from the previous environment I had been in. And let me also remind you of this. I had allowed myself to become part of that environment. I had been the person who got on the hamster wheel. No one did it to me. And the 10 years I spent in my previous work, I also learned so much. I wouldn't be here today without it. But I just want to remind people always that we can't walk around as victims. No one made me do what I did, and it was all part of the journey to get me to where I am today, sitting with you here. So I just want to really be clear on that, is to always remember to be very intentional about where you place blame and how each part of our life actually does get us to this end goal that we're looking for. And so when meeting Warren and Brenda, when they came into my life, I didn't know exactly how much this would impact the future and how I would be changed into a new person, a new leader. So I started to really slowly drink the Kool-Aid and become part of this culture that was people first. And as I was given more leadership responsibilities, such a privilege and honor to literally be handed, Warren said to me, "We're handing you our baby." Can you imagine? And I took that, and I really took that as obviously just a gift that people would trust me with this mission to provide respite, resources, and support to caregivers. So the Kate that started at David's Refuge 9 years ago is not the Kate that is sitting with you today, and very intentionally have poured into myself. When people have come along my journey that have wanted to pour into me as a leader, I've actually had leadership coaches. I've worked with a great coach for a year, and he changed my life. And I'll tell you, every single time I talked to him, I was nervous. He made me just a little bit angry. He pushed my buttons, but that was growth. That was me knowing that, okay, I got to keep going back to this uncomfortable place to break through to this next level. And he really made me look at myself. It is being an intentional leader that asks your staff for feedback. What is your experience of me? And then listening to the feedback with absolutely no ego. How can you ever move an organization forward if you don't actually ask for feedback, listen to it, and grow from it? So many of us are walking around saying, I want feedback, but then when it's given to us, we get angry, or we get upset, or we become hurt and offended. Well, that's not going to help you grow. So in order to move David's Refuge into the new community of Rochester, we have had some major setbacks. I do attribute COVID to a slowing of our pace, and it didn't allow us to keep focusing on growing outside of Central New York, because we had to turn our focus back to just our local community and keeping our staff happy, keeping our board going, making sure that the donations were still coming in to support our mission. So what that also did is it allowed us to pause and really reconstruct the entire service structure of David's Refuge. So I look at it as a major win for us that we were given this time to continue to work, to continue to do all of the great things David's Refuge does, but actually restructure our staff, restructure our organizational chart, of who is reporting to who, the different responsibilities and expectations. And now, so ready. And another piece that's come from the last couple of years that the pause allowed us to do is it allowed me to continue to meet more people. I strongly believe that until you have the right who around the table, you cannot confidently move forward. And it allowed me to really take a pause and find the right people that became our community in both Rochester and Syracuse, that now I feel like we can push that gas pedal down.
You've joined a group, and it's so true. You touched on a couple of things. Number one, the victimhood. You are obviously one of the most positive people I've ever met. And even when we first got on, before we hit the record button, I was like, yeah, you're like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, yeah. Da, da. And I'm like, you know what? And I told you within 2 minutes of talking to you, I'm like, I feel good. So that victimhood, because I've been right where you were. I left a company that was my whole identity, and I've spent 2.5 years trying to figure out who I am, because I gave so much of myself. But there was so many good things. My life is so much better because of that company. There were things that happened, but you just hit on it. I chose to stay. I chose to accept the things that bothered me or impacted my family. I chose that. And it took a long time for me to realize that and not say, oh, blah, blah, blah. It's such a freeing feeling to look yourself in the mirror and be honest. So that, I think, that's something that I admire. And when you taught the other big point, and I want to talk about the Profound group, because I interviewed Jeff Knaus, who was one of the founders. At first, when I saw that put together, I was like, this is never going to work in Syracuse. It's tough. But after 15 minutes of hearing people that were involved talk about it, it goes to your last point. You surround yourself with good people that are driven the same way, that have the same outlook, and amazing things happen for you personally and your community. Talk a little bit about what you've learned in Profound and how you're taking that and spreading that across Central New York.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, being part of Profound, just being able to spend more time with Jeff. I mean, what a solid human being, right? From the minute I met him years ago, and just can't say enough great things about him. But being in Profound, so I can really boil it down to an easy way for all of us to digest. I joined Profound at the start of 2023, and I have, I would say, 30 to 40 humans in my life who are solidly in my life, not just surface level, not just I see you at an event every once in a while. Like I have we text, we email, we call each other, we get together outside of the Profound groups, even 30 to 40 people who I didn't have before joining Profound at the start of 2023. And I'm also a person who I wasn't sitting there saying, I need more people in my life. Oh, I'm so lonely. Like that wasn't it at all. I feel already full, but to think like, wow, these are actual solid human beings that are now part of my journey. They will be part of my journey regardless of our titles, where we work, if we're in Profound, if we're not. They will be part of Kate Houck and my story, and I will be part of their story regardless. So to me, I don't know how to find that in any other way, really. You can go to 700 networking events and take have these surface level conversations. Hey, how are you today? Those things don't progress. It takes so much time. So I feel like it's almost a fast forward button to meeting people, getting really vulnerable and deep right away, breaking through barriers, and just knowing we share a common ground of not being the commiserators, of being change makers. I keep saying change makers, being the people who want to contribute. And so we don't have to even talk about that. And I've even compared Profound to what we have been doing at David's Refuge all along, of we are putting people together who share a common thread, and we're building a community so that you don't have to continue to go back through your story every single time or start at surface level. You can start at your hopes and dreams. We're already to the top of the pyramid here. We can cut through all the other stuff. And so I think that's probably what profound means to me and so many others in the group. So just what a great idea. I love that Jeff just had an idea and this is what's come of it.
And Jeff, now I think Profound is going to be a sponsor of this show for the amount that I've talked about it. It's something that I wish I could have done. I moved obviously to Central Florida, so a little tough, but Jeff, if you're listening, we'll talk. On that, you talk about, getting past and really 30 to 40 people that are beyond just acquaintance. Mm-hmm. That mentality, it leads me to my second story about Kate. My son, right 2 weeks before, actually, as COVID was happening and the lockdown, shutdown started, one of my sons, Nixon, was in the hospital having a tethered spinal cord repaired. The first night we got home, what happened? Kate showed up with Carabas for my whole family. Unprovoked, just the kindness and that. And again, we had known each other for a while, but that's the kind of person you are and the kind of environment you've built with David's Refuge, with Profound. Everywhere you go, you connect. I can't, the last Kate, story I'll share is, my father passed away almost 2 years ago. And one of the first calls I got was from Kate. And, those two things that you didn't have to do, you heard and you called and you showed up. And that is something that I think everybody who encounters you, I think they feel that level of care from you. And I think it's very rare in this world. And for that's one of those things that, forget David's Refuge, forget anything. If you ever called me and needed anything, I would be on a plane tomorrow from Orlando to Syracuse, as long as it's not snowing. But, that kind of impact you've made on people. When that's something that inherently is within you, but have you always been that way? I mean, from your childhood, Chris, was it learned from your parents or family? Where was this nurtured? And because it's one of the greatest gifts ever.
You're making me emotional, first of all, which isn't, I cry all the time, but I think
so do I. It's all good. It's all good.
I think what's triggering the emotion, though, what I think about is why are these behaviors that I do celebrated? Why are these the different? Why do these stand out? Where I think in my head, it should never be celebrated that I sent someone a thank you card. It should not be, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want accolades for that. To me, it is like, what I think immediately, how can I influence more people to just do these things, because they're not actually that hard. They're not hard, right? Like, I'm not operating on someone's brain. I'm not saving the life of a child. Like, so that to me is the biggest push and pull of all of this. Is I truly don't want an accolade for sending someone a note or dropping off a meal. I want others to just do the thing. I would love for you to just say, you know what, Kate did it, so I'm going to now start to do this more and more, as much as I possibly can. If I don't do it any times a year, I want to just do it once a year. And then you'll start to see the ripple of that. And maybe you'll start hearing that from people. The fact that you would jump on a plane for me, is truly appreciated. I don't want to just skate over that. That's huge, Chris. And I know it. I know it deep down. I know I could call you for anything. And that to me is speaking to who you are as well. That's your character. Where this all came from, I honestly, my parents are very thoughtful people, and they always instilled in me this keep moving forward mentality, work hard, think of others. It was always, deep friendships meant something to them. And then I started to just practice. And this is like any athlete, the Olympian, everything they do comes with extreme amounts of practice. And then the feelings you get because of the practice and seeing the results. I guess I would say that it's a practiced mentality that I love how I feel when someone else feels good. And I'm going to keep doing it because maybe it's somewhat selfish, you know, that I get that great sense of satisfaction from seeing someone else feel connected, feel thought of. And I know that so many people are out there walking around every day not feeling that anyone is thinking of them. So if I can do that by sending a text message or a note, I'm going to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't
Pay
have
it
some
forward.
huge answer for that other than I just feel like it's the right thing to do. And I actually get frustrated, like in the way that you presented that, just not at you, but I don't want to see anyone posting a note I sent them on Facebook. Like if you're going to post it, do it to inspire others to do it. Like it's not about
That's
me.
it.
I'm, you know,
And that's it. That's my intent, is that I wanted to highlight that because it impacted me. And again, all these years later, it's still right here. And, you know, it kind of goes along with it. Someone, I don't know where I read it. If you're thinking about someone, call them, text
call
them,
them.
do something, because there's a reason why. You know, the older I get, the more I'm realizing. I talked with a woman, Carla Bernberg. We talked about nature healing walks, like you take your shoes off and walk in the grass. And now I have a backyard, so I can do that. But all of these emotions when I'm walking come out, and I think of people and they get random texts.
Good.
You know, and so, but that came from, and the reason why I asked who you saw that from, my parents, like yours, were thoughtful people. Everything they did, it would drive people nuts. My dad cared so much, you know, but I saw that and I said, how can I do that? And then having friends like you that do that, you know, we have a friend here in Orlando that our kids are in school together, and one of them is going through, not the kid, one of the parents is going through chemotherapy and cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrea and I constantly, hey, what can we do? Can we bring you food? Can we do that? And you paid it forward without even realizing you paid it forward.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to highlight that. But you do deserve the accolades. So I love how humble you are. You've created something that I can't wait to see where it goes. I look forward to it every day on Instagram. Be Brave CNY. Talk about where that came from, what it is, and you know what you know, your purpose behind that, your why.
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to all of the different things that we've already touched upon today of wanting to share small tidbits that I can that might impact someone else to just pay it forward or make the next right step. I think that's really all we can do on a day-to-day basis is every minute we make decisions, try to make the next right decision. And every decision is just that. It's just a decision. It's not big, small, they're all decisions. So when I thought about Brave CNY, there's a couple things I'll touch upon here. I've been wanting to start something on a side gig, you know, that doesn't take away from David's Refuge ever, because that's my heart, but also allows me to support others in their journey of starting local nonprofits, leadership. You know, I work really intensely with my staff at David's Refuge on a one-to-one basis. And I have tenured staff now that my greatest gift is watching them set goals on a yearly basis and then following up on those goals and seeing them actually progress. I mean, there's literally nothing better as someone who's been put into a leadership position who has influence, is watching someone move out of their own way and start to realize their own confidence, see the influence that they have on the world. And so I wanted to start something, and my friend Al Kutri, which if you don't know Al, you need to.
Oh, Al, you gotta love Al.
He's the best. We were sitting in a coffee shop, and it was the end of 2022, and I keep talking about starting a business. He's like, Kate, next time we have coffee, I want to hear what your company name is, and just start it. Call an attorney, do the thing. And I was like, you're right. So I did it. You know, he was the who I needed in that moment. So I reached out. I started my own side company that will allow me to work with people, work with individuals and coach people. I've been working with some people who want to start a nonprofit organization and maybe how they can get that going. But the real intention is really to, through the Instagram post, is to maybe sprinkle little tiny bits over people every single day and maybe share with them what is in my brain. My dear friend Lori next door, she'll say to me, where the heck are you getting all this stuff, Kate? Like, are you looking it up? Like, is it just coming from you? And I'm like, yeah, honestly, this is like what's in my head every day. I told you about my morning walk, how, someone said to me, I said, it's a beautiful day. And he said, well, it could be nicer. It could be warmer. And I could do a whole post on that. That'll probably be tomorrow morning. Just my brain is constantly thinking about how we can change the narrative, how we can move ourselves forward, how we can live with intention, because ultimately all I want is for all of us to get to the end goal here and say that we did it. Like, we did our best. We lived the life that we wanted to live. And I don't want anyone to be filled with regret. I have one huge regret in my life. My grandmother asked me to come and spend her birthday with her. It was her last birthday. And I was in college. I literally didn't have a car. Like, I had to go from SUNY Cortland all the way back to Batavia, New York. Like, it wasn't really an easy thing to do. And I told her I couldn't. And she spent, her birthday alone. And I will never forget that. And I won't also live in a place of just like, I wish. But I regret. I do have that regret that I didn't try harder to get to her. And so there's pieces that I thread through what I do every day that want to just desperately help people get out of their own way, desperately help people realize the potential they have, that they are exceptional, and that they do have influence, and that they can make the right decisions to get them to those end goals. And so that, I think, is where Brave came from. The name itself, I do want to share. I don't put this all over a website or anything, but the week I came up with a name, our city lost two amazing young women. They were both lost to gun violence. One was Brexy. She was a little girl walking home, and she was carrying some milk. She had gone to get milk for her parents, and a gang shooting happened, and she lost her life. The second was my dear friend Heather Wood. It was her daughter, Ava Wood. And she was taken by gun violence as well, mental illness from her father. So the week I came up with the name, I was getting in my own way, imposter syndrome. What am I doing starting a company? What the heck am I doing? And I woke up in the middle of the night and I put their two names together, Brexy and Ava. And I said, Brave. Brave. What am I holding back from? Here's these two young women, these two bright lights that would have just lit the world on fire. Honestly, both of them had such a bright future and they were taken. And I'm this 42-year-old woman who has every opportunity given in the world and this great energy and this great life. And I can't do the thing that I want to do. Are you kidding me? Like, what are my excuses exactly? So that's where the name came from. And the goal eventually will be to somehow work on a part of Brave that will support young women. And that's going to be a futuristic goal as to how we can do that. I even want to work with Heather, Ava's mom, and see if there's ways we can coordinate and come together. But there's a lot of different pieces, and I just can't wait for it to continue to make its way out into the world. I'm also not putting a lot of pressure because it's okay for it to take time and do the right steps. So thanks for asking. I mean, obviously I'm pretty passionate about it.
I love and thank you for sharing that. I know I didn't intend to get you to get emotional here.
I didn't mean to either.
No, but it's so relatable, Kate. I think everybody goes through that. They go through something, or they know people and they have crutches. I spent a long time after leaving a job, after my dad passed away, after my kids have had surgeries. Cash has had 7 surgeries, and you go into that darkness a little bit of not horrible, but if you channel that into positive and you use it the right way, you're honoring that influence and you're honoring yourself and what you're meant to do. We talked about, I said, Kate, every time I talk to you, I feel better. The world needs to talk to you and feel better. And there's bigger things for you. And now knowing the meaning behind Be Brave CNY, I will look forward to this even more every day because of why, right?
Why?
Again, we're both in marketing. You're in marketing. I'm in marketing. It's the why behind a brand that you love something. It's the why behind a person or a famous, a musician or an artist of how it makes you feel. That's the kind of impact that you're trying to push out. It's to pay it forward. I think everything with you goes back to pay it forward. What was one? It's a two-part question because, as you said earlier, early in our careers, you ask for feedback and then you can't take it, or you take it and it doesn't have the outcome. So two-part question. What is the best and worst criticism or feedback you've ever gotten? And maybe not you've ever gotten that you can think of.
That's a great question. Criticism. Okay, so I remember this one helped me grow the most is how I'll play this one out. It helped me learn about myself. And it was our founder, Warren Full, great at giving feedback. Anyone who knows Warren. Yeah.
He was the second phone call I got the day my dad passed away.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
What happened when I started at David's Refuge was I had come from a corporate nonprofit, like real churn and burn, like work. And, human waste in my wake, like, oh my gosh, a tornado. So I came into David's Refuge and just automatically like kind of assumed this pace. And I remember he said to me, Kate, you stepped on my toes. You crossed the line, like you stepped on my toes. And I, of course, like immediately almost took like this reaction of like, like, but then I took a step back after probably a day. I'm not saying I reacted the right way. He might remember my reaction more. But then I had to really slow my pace and know my role. I was being brought into an organization that was the namesake of their son, who they had lost after, being full-time caregivers to him and watching his disease take over his life. And then they started this organization in their home, and it was all their idea. And it was out of this passion and mission for helping people. And I was like, whoa, who am I to like be angry or like to have someone, I literally was probably like, what do you mean? Cross my arms. So what I realized about myself through that feedback was more of a positive of you're never going to have to push me forward. Never. But sometimes you will have to probably pull me back, right? And I think that's a positive as long as you don't have ego in it, right? So if you're someone who's constantly like, I'm going to go forward no matter what, I am always one to push the ball forward, do not have it standing in the middle of the field. But to be one of those people, you also have to be humble enough to be pulled back sometimes, because the pullback is the learning. The pullback is the growth. And many of us are sort of too afraid to live in what happens in the pullback. So I learned that from him, and it came through beautiful constructive criticism. So I would say that's the biggest piece that came from that, is to know why people are pulling me back and that I shouldn't take offense of it, but I can learn from it.
And I think we've all been through the negative where someone comes at you, it's their own ego or it's their own self-preservation, without the intent to help you grow. I mean, I've had it. And I think what's changed in all of us, and I'll speak for you, is how we can take something bad and make it good. So that even today, if someone comes in and, everybody's a marketer, right? The memes that you see all across social media, oh, you know something about marketing, and you go take a vacation. It's there. If you really look if you look for positive in anything, you'll find it. There's always
It's very
something
true.
positive. You know, as someone told me, you know, I'm living the life today that the younger me wanted and always dreamed of.
Absolutely.
And it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, so yeah, this person said something that didn't help, but there's a reason why they said it.
Right.
Or there's something I can take. So I have a couple rapid fire questions because I know you're busy and I don't want to take up too much of your time. What did you want to be as a kid?
I wanted to be a florist.
A florist. You've met my wife, right? You haven't seen our house in Florida. It's a plant sanctuary out back. What was your favorite flower?
I actually am not into, so I like green. So like hostas, fern, those types of plants. I don't know. There's something about it. So I don't actually have a favorite flower. That's like saying, do I have a favorite
forget
kid?
Flower, plants. Yeah, well, we know you do at different times of the day. You're a parent. We're imperfect, Kate. It's okay.
Oh, you're so funny.
And by the way, your kids are amazing. And
yes,
your
they
husband,
are.
Paul's, they're just amazing people.
Next level, amazing.
We're going to send you. So my wife is crazy with plants. I'll take a couple pictures. You pick one you want and we'll send you a cutting and you can grow something up there. So look into Monstera plants.
I might still be a florist someday too, by the way.
There you go.
Do that. Yeah.
I love it.
I want to work with plants.
I'm not going to let you talk to Andrea.
Okay.
If your life had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh, this is an easy one. So when I'm on stage lately, you got to get up every morning with a smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart.
There you go.
You are the first, by Carole King, my friend.
I love it. You are the first in this podcast short history to go into song, and it was awesome. I love it. If you could have dinner with one living famous person, who would that be? What would you eat and why?
All right. I'm just going to go Tony Robbins, man. I would learn so much from him. And I love his voice.
You eat? What would you have for dinner? Or breakfast or lunch?
All right. So someone asked me what I would have, like, if I was on death row, what I would eat. I'm like salmon with some broccoli and rice. Like, I'm a very simple person.
With Tony Robbins. I love it.
Yeah.
You have a new dog. What have you learned from this dog?
To slow down. Yeah. He requires a lot of space and time, and it's paying off the more space and time I give him and the more patience. So I have to. Like, what else can I do? He's 90 pounds. He weighs almost as much, well, I won't say almost as much as me, but it's close. And he requires a ton of my time and my energy and my love and my attention. And that's all I could do in that moment. So he's forced me to be in the present. And I'm thankful for that. Yeah.
Dogs are the greatest. Mine is 12 years old and slowing down. And I was telling you earlier, I cringe at seeing your best friend get old, but dogs are so amazing. They have just the best impact. Last question for you, because my goal in this podcast is to get everybody to swear once. What's your favorite swear word?
I love that. I like shit. Shit.
I get, and you'll laugh as you see these when they come out, the struggle people have to actually say it. There's others that surprise me and just in conversation, they're like, F this, F that. I grew up on a potato farm and I almost fell over. I almost had to hit pause. But growing up on a farm, my dad's favorite word was fuck, but it wasn't used to in the negative. It was a descriptive. It was an adjective. I mean, it was an art for how he used that word. So I trust people who swear. That's why I make them. I'll delete the whole episode if someone won't give me a swear word. Kate, you've changed my day already just by having this conversation. I sincerely appreciate your vulnerability to tell the story about your grandma, about where Be Brave came from. again, there's no words for how important you are to people. And I know you hate that, which is why it's even more important I say it. I encourage everyone to go on Instagram, follow Be Brave CNY, follow Kate on LinkedIn, follow David's Refuge. These things, and this is why I wanted to do this, to get that story out and to have people understand that great people are everywhere. So thank you, my friend. I appreciate you, and just looking forward to everything you do beyond today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Just so very grateful you're part of my life. So thank you for everything. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's another episode. We appreciate you listening. Again, Profound is sponsoring this without sponsoring this. So thank you, Jeff Canas. Kate, have a great day. Tell everyone I said hello.
You too, Chris.